All right, if we could have folks start to grab their seats here, we'll move into the afternoon portion of the program. All right, just another minute or so here for folks to finish up, take a seat. All right, just so you won't be stuck with me emceeing for the afternoon here, we'll also have Morgan hopping in to introduce some of our speakers this afternoon. So it's my pleasure to turn it over to Morgan Hitzig. She's going to introduce our next speaker and kick off the afternoon portion of the programming.
Thanks, Zach. So I think it's going to take a little bit of time for folks to start trickling back in, but want to stay on time. It is an Army event after all. So I am going to introduce Patrick, who is going to come up here and kick off the portion of our event that is very focused on the PEOs. He's going to talk a little bit about what the role of the PEO is, some of the challenges that the Army has had on the acquisition front. I think he's going to paint a super helpful picture and then give a really high-level overview of what the Army is doing to actually break down some of those barriers. So Patrick is the lead. He's the Contract Management Division Chief at PEO Enterprise. He also runs their cyber engagements. What exactly does this encompass? This used to be like the artist formerly known as Enterprise Information System. So if you do software, there's a very good chance that Patrick's team is responsible for it. So without further ado, I will introduce Patrick. He's also a former contracting officer or current contracting officer, so can answer any and all contracting questions. So Patrick, over to you.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you. So first off, not a practicing contracting officer today. Thank you. Did have that distinction previously though, so for those who are warranted KO in the room, I appreciate you staying in it, but the list of who's who and burned out and came to the dark side of the PEO, it's long and great. I'm going to talk a little bit about what a PEO is, who we are, what we do. But where is my friend who asked where the acquisition guys in the room? All right. Cool. Yeah. All right. So my daughter's a Swiftie, so hi, I'm the problem. It's me. All the reasons that the generals talked about this morning, why they need to go fast and they can't. Hi, it's us. Where's my slide? Here we go. So I have a couple slides. Cool, I'm gonna go off script pretty quick. My boss doesn't like it when I do, so make sure you tell him that I did. We are under the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology. On the right side of your screen are the staff elements. On the left are the 12 PEOs. We are very descriptively named. PEO Enterprise, we do all the enterprise engagements across the Army, information systems. We hold enterprise contract vehicles, PEO Aviation. You guessed it, they do aviation. JPEO Ammo, again, you guessed it, munitions. So where are we located? Here you go. Most of us are on the East Coast. We don't really go past the Mississippi. So I appreciate why there's some disconnect with our West Coast colleagues. This is where I'm going to go off script. Where's my word chart? There we go. All right, I'm not going to read this to you. You guys are all very smart. The problems laid out by the generals earlier today, we need to go faster. Yes, we do. Technology is changing rapidly. Why does that problem exist? When you guys need to go get money for a new product or a new feature or a new service, how long does it take you to get funds? Who do you go talk to? CEO? CFO? Weeks, maybe months? We ask Congress 2 years in advance. At least, thank you. Yep, 5-year fight up. Okay, I've got some guys with scars up here. I appreciate you. The best teams start writing their contract strategies as soon as they ask Congress for money. Most of us wait until we have it on very good authority that we're going to get that money before we start working our contract strategies. So, one of the generals walks in, says, I have a need. I have a real credible threat. This is our requirement. Okay, great. Check. Roger, sir. Happy to help. Thank you for coming over and identifying that. We go ask Congress for money. Clock starts ticking. Meanwhile, he has an active threat. Next up, we get money. Like I said, our best teams have already started. Most of our teams, not yet. We're going to start a contract lead time. What we have to do is we have to write everything, because why? We're professional acquisitioneers. What does a professional acquisitioneer do? Professional acquisitioneer demonstrates or documents what our requirement is, because it's not enough that I just call you up and say, hey, I want to buy 7 of those off the shelf. No, I have to describe it. We have to put it out there on the street for 30 days, give everyone a fair opportunity. Why? Because that's law. Not going to change that. It's frustrating. My acquisition requirements package is a collection of documents that describes what my requirement is and how I'm satisfying all applicable laws and regulations. Is anyone familiar with the Federal Acquisition Regulation, the FAR? Awesome. Who's read it cover to cover? Yeah, one of us. Anybody seen the DFARS? Anyone seen a written copy of this thing? Who's been around long enough that we've seen written copies of the DFARS? Cool. So you know it's about the same size of a phone book as the FAR. Anybody seen a printed copy of the AFARs? Why? Because the Army did this to itself. The Federal Acquisition Regulation, the DoD supplement, the DFARs, were not enough. The Army had to put more regulation upon itself. Who's seen a printed copy of the AFARs? Guess what? It's about the same length. It's another phone book. We have other documents too. So why do I tell you that? It takes a long time to get on contract. Best case scenario, it's 6 months. Very regularly, it's pushing 2 years. 6 months for shorter actions, like buying supplies, commercial items that we might buy off the shelf. Services tend to be the longest because it's very hard to differentiate the value of one proposal over another. We ask for 50 to 80 page proposals. Anyone ever written a 50 to 80 page proposal? Yeah, sorry guys. Who got one of our solicitations the weekend before Christmas? Really sorry guys. All right, so what are we doing about it? Like I said, hi, I'm the problem. Why are we the problem though? Well, the PEOs are where the money's at. If you don't know about us, that's at your own peril. PEO Enterprise alone, we run about $1.3 billion annually. We're probably on the smaller side of that dollar scale. I've got about 280 active contracts right now. That does not include the multiple award IDIQs that we avail to the rest of the Army to accelerate their path to contract award. So we're very, very large. One of the cool things that we're doing, because we can't control, sorry, I like to walk around when I speak. Being confined to a podium's foreign to me. One of the cool things that we're doing, we can't control how we get money from Congress, at least not at the PEO level. That process might change, but it's beyond our ability to influence. PEO Enterprise last year, we found religion. We found the SIBR office. Thank you guys. We appreciate you welcoming us back into the fold with open arms. And we came back with an AI-enabled acquisition requirements package tool. Really exciting. Why does that matter? That is the single longest piece of our path to contract award, building that acquisition requirements package. It is easily I see you guys nodding over here. You've lived this pain. Easily 8, 12, 15 different documents. Many of them are greater than 50 pages long. And preparing any one of these in a vacuum, it's pretty easy, right? We're all educated guys, we can do this. When we make a change to one of those documents, unfortunately the contents bleed over into others. And you have to trace those changes through all the other documents. And more often than not, our human teams have proven to be unsuccessful at keeping pace with all of these changes and tracing them through. We stall out in review, leading to solicitation release. Because our reviewers can't figure out what we're buying. They can't figure out how we're demonstrating that we satisfy all applicable laws and regulations, our two burdens that we have to prove to go out for a solicitation. If they don't catch it, all of you guys certainly will. And we'll get 500, 600 questions during the solicitation period, and we'll stall out there. God help us if we have to change it during the solicitation period, because now we've just cost ourselves all credibility and we're going to go slower. And if we're lucky enough to get through that evaluation, we're probably going to generate a protest because no one understood our requirement. We generated 600 questions on it. All of these things delay our ability to deliver capability to the warfighter. So, how is AI going to be our friend here? It's going to help us collapse that because AI is really good at identifying inconsistencies. It can help us trace those changes throughout the entire document, throughout the entire package. That's how we're getting after the first phase. I have a partner here, Andy Felm, in the audience. You'll hear from her later. We're getting after the second and third. I need your help with that. You guys heard all the generals this morning. I don't have a cool, flashy video or anything. But man, they were inspiring, right? Who's ready to do something great today? We need your help. Please, help us help ourselves. Come talk to us. Get involved in our testing. Go see our problems in real life. Come talk to me at the PEO. Tell me what you got. Tell me how you're going to solve my problem. The only thing I ask of you, understand our portfolio. Don't come to me and talk to me about how you can put stuff in aviation platforms. Super cool. I'd love to geek out over that stuff with you. I can't help you. Go call my comrades at PEO Aviation. Go to the source. Software stuff? Absolutely. Come on in. Open arms. Let's have a call. We meet with industry regularly. Please, please, please. I think my office has had over 100 in the month of January alone. My team directly, we've had 15 or 16 just in January. And we've got another dozen lined up already for February. And I'm hoping a couple of you guys come talk to us about what we've briefed here later today as well. Again, doors open. Please come chat. All right. With all that said, thank you for your interest in supporting the United States Army. We will not get better without you. Please come talk to us. Please understand our problems. Help us help ourselves. Thank you for your time.
Okay, so with that, we're now going to begin to dive into each of the different PEOs. So as everybody knows, there's 6 PEOs represented today. It's an opportunity to hear directly around the challenges facing each of those specific PEOs, so you can better fit the solution to the problems at hand, and to Patrick's point, know where to go in order to find and match that capability. So no further ado, I'd like to introduce PEOs representatives from Command, Control, Communications, and Network to the stage, and they'll have an opportunity to walk through some of the common problem sets they're having. Thanks again.
Okay, PEO, I'm not sure how familiar you are with our PEO. We used to be called PEO C3T. We've changed, we gained the enterprise part of the network, so now we're communications control, communications control networks and networks. C3N, just to throw off everybody who knew who we were. I'm Bill Leonard. I work within the headquarters in the technical management directorate. I handle the emerging technologies. Part of that is being the cyber coordinator for the PEO. With me is Adam Flores. He is with Next Generation C2. You heard General Rainey mention that this morning, okay, about data centricity. So he's here. He's gonna brief the the demand signal, and he's going to brief the technology challenge for that area. I'm going to give you a one over the world what PEO C3N is and where we fit into the Army structure, and then what our priorities are and our goals. And we'll lead into, Adam, we'll take it from there and let you know what our technology challenges are. Now, hopefully I can figure out how to do this thing. All right, well, I talked about that. My contact information is up there on the right corner. Hopefully everyone will be able to get a chance to get these slides. If not, just see me. I can give them to you. What's our mission? General Rainey and Anderson and Bowman, they did an excellent job of leading me into this brief because they talked all morning about data centricity and modernizing the network and all those buzzwords you hear today. So we rapidly develop, field, modernized network mission command capabilities, right on down from large-scale operations right on down to the soldiers. So that's our mission. What we do is we field that gear, which is mission command and cyber applications, network management tools, integrated command posts, network initialization capabilities. Read that as that's the data that initializes our network to make it work. That's a huge undertaking by one of our PMs, is to build that startup data, so to speak. That's an old term. And the ComSec that goes down to the brigades and the division enablers. So that's our mission. That's what we do. Our PEO, I think our portfolio is I think a $3 billion annual portfolio. It's very, very huge, very diverse. I repurposed this slide from one of our other PEOs, ground combat systems. I saw it in the deck, and I rather than reinvent the wheel, I thought it was great to just change it up to represent us, represent where we are. Oh, I went the wrong way. How do I go back? There you go. I'm going to use my laser because it works better. Well, Department of Defense is up top. You got Department of the Army. Here we are over here. That big monolithic thing, ASALT, that General Rainey said is too slow. We're trying to get better at that. And here we fall underneath ASALT, as all the other PEOs that are here today. We all fall underneath the same organization. Army Futures Command, General Rainey, his folks help us with requirements. They do the experimentation events to inform their requirements. And down here, I drilled down to one of their cross-functional teams, which is the command and control cross-functional team, because they're hand in hand, they're partners with Next Generation C2 as they are a new program. They are just starting to develop their contracting strategies and how they're going to go after a data-centric command and control platform, which is totally different than what we've done in the past. So that's how we fit. We are the acquisition side. We buy, we field. They derive the requirements and experiment and help us both deliver what the warfighter needs to go find and kill the enemy. This is our organization. Sorry for the eye chart here, but I will get with Next Generation C2 last, but here's our PMs. We have I2S. What they do is they're like our integrator. They engage across our other PMs within the PEO so that we develop a synchronized capability to the field as we field units and Army formations. So they do that. They engage across the portfolio. They also are the ones that build the initialization network products and do the network operations piece of it. Tactical network is just that. They bring the tactical network. Should I use this wrong way? Tactical networks is just that. They bring the network that moves the data around to our command and control systems. JITNIC, they're out here in San Diego. They do the standards for communications. So they make sure that everyone's developing their communications devices against standards so we all interoperate. Mission Command is the current Mission Command PM. They field command and control systems and CMOS capabilities, which is combining all the different disparate capability, the hardware inside the vehicles into one box, rather than everyone comes with a kit and installs it. Tactical radios, they just that. They field the radios, the comms radios, and then this is our new ad. which is PMIEN. They came from PEO EIS, Enterprise. So these are the enterprise part of the warfighter network. So that bringing that into PEO C3N made us C3N. So now we own the network for the warfighter. We field it, we buy it, we field it, we develop it. And then network, C2, CFT, they're here because they're a partner with PEO Next Generation C2. What you heard this morning was, this is big because this is data-centric C2 architecture. This is different than what we've done before. This is starting with data, and how do we handle all that data on the battlefield? That's a big job, and they're starting from scratch with this. They're not, because right now we have all these legacy systems here. We can't get to the future by how we've been doing business, which is build on what we already have and think we're going to get to the future by building on things that were developed when I first started in this PEO in 1988. Okay, we're still using software that's from the 90s. Okay, and we're building on it. So this is brand new. This is what's going to be the future for us, and this is the basis of our signal demand and the tech challenge. With that, I'm going to bring up Adam. Adam's going to run you through the demand signal that he's developed and the actual tech challenge. There's a slide after that, which I can go through quickly, which is just how to get a hold of us. If you want to deal with us, if you want to reach out to us, there's ways to get a hold of us, and I have that. I also have other information I can give out when we're done here. Thank you.
I'll give it a shot. You mean if you just run the slides?
Sure.
You can stay on this one for now.
Stay right here?
You can stay on this one for now. All right. Hello, everyone. It's Adam Flores. I'm an engineer on the Next Gen C2 team in PEO C3N. So one thing for this slide I want to take a note is you see each of these PMs, they each have their own set of equipment. So, for example, I come from PM Michigan. Before I was in Next Gen C2, we had upwards of 20 different capabilities that had different hardware, different software at different echelons, be it command post or at the end user at the tactical edge. So just imagine that each of these PMs have that number of capabilities and equipment that they have to field to the soldier. Next slide. Don't worry about it. I'm going to cover all this. Go ahead, next slide.
Yeah, these are just our priorities.
Yep. So I want to get to the reason why this is all contextually important is because what the true goal of what Next Gen C2 is, you have to understand where we're coming from. And when I say C2, command and control. So that's giving commanders the ability to have information, have a common operating picture, and be able to make decisions with real-time information, right? But that current system, that current network is based off of hundreds of different pieces of equipment and capabilities, right? So what our goal is here and what General Radio is getting to is we're trying to take all of that and put it on one overall data-centric technology stack where we start with a common integrated data layer. So we're coming from a bunch of pieces of equipment that do a bunch of different things for the warfighter, and we're trying to condense it into one big stack that has interoperability across all these warfighting functions, all the applications that they provide to the soldiers so they can be essentially safer, more survivable, do their job in a way that is helpful to us, but also safe for them. So with that being said, we're going to acknowledge the current capability gap in terms of all of this and what Colonel was getting into. There's a signed document called the Characteristics of Need, and that's what lays out what our different requirements are for our program. One of which is developing that data layer, but developing it with the use of AI models and machine learning. So that's going to be the focus of what our capability gap is here and what we're going to be asking for. So in that document, there's a specific line that speaks to artificial intelligence and machine learning. So the gap here that we're looking for is when you have all these different products that are trying to integrate into this new data layer, into this new stack, you're going to need to test them. But it's very unrealistic to make a scalable test environment made with all these real things that allow you to get a real good idea of what's safe and suitable. So what we want to do is we want to leverage AI and machine learning to generate realistic data and create a test environment in order to do that. So for clarity, the end result, or what we're looking for here, is a test environment that's not fielded to soldiers, but it's a lab-based test environment that we use to test and integrate current capabilities as well as new and emerging ones. And feel free to stop me if anything. I know I'm going kind of fast. I know there's a lot going on here, so. Let's see. I think I've hit. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the Army's Next Teacher Program Manager, my boss, is working on turning all of these requirements into a material solution, which is a term that we use in ASOL and acquisition, saying, hey, our requirements community writes such a requirement. We are the ones responsible for delivering what that end result solution capability is. And right now, transformation and context means we're getting away from a specific item or thing that does it and more a capability that is done by insert technology here. So we're less hard and vendor solution. We're trying to be hard solution vendor agnostic. Let's see. I think I got to most of what we're going on. So I guess I'll stop there for a moment and ask if there are any questions for high level. Lovely, my favorite. So I'll be here through tomorrow. If anyone wants to talk to me, I'll just let me know. I have some business cards as well. But yeah, thank you.
Still got a couple more minutes to go. Go ahead.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
Well, I was going to go ahead. I was going to go back a couple slides here. The reason why we didn't go through these, and I was glad they spoke before us, because General Rainey and General Anderson and General Vollmer, they went through my slides almost. I mean, I thought they stole them from the internet last night, because they said all these things. Their priorities are our priorities. And then you go to the technical focus areas, they mentioned all that today. And it wasn't like I don't think they cheated off my paper, but this is what they were talking about this morning, so I didn't want to go through it again and have you sit through that. But what I wanted to bring up was, this is how you get a hold of us. We have a outward-facing website up top, PEO C3N. The second one is if you want industry engagements with the PEO, with our PMs, our staff, that's where you go to. There's a questionnaire on there so you can see how your technologies may fit into our portfolio, our needs. And there's also a slick sheet. I have a copy of slick sheets here. I'll put them on the table outside, which have two sides and explains what we do, all the things that are on here. Plus it has links to the Joint Communications Marketplace, which hosts the Tylo site. But if you take the PEO C3N Tylo off the back of that URL and just have all the way up to jitnik/s, that brings you to the Joint Communications Marketplace, and you register. And that's how you can get on there and see the announcements for contracts coming up for the PEO, for where we're at APBIs, where we're going for FCAs and things like that. And then specifically for major contracting actions and APPI events, Ben McGuire is our contracts lead within the PEO for doing contracts. So I asked him if I could put his name up here. He says, okay, so it's his fault if he gets 1,000 emails from today, not mine. But I meant to put the JCM on here, but I didn't. But I'm going to put some slick sheets in the back. I've also have a stack of business cards which have that QR code on it. If you want to just use that instead of go ahead. That's all I had.
I did forget one thing, guys. So with all those pieces of equipment I was talking about, think about that volume and that how aggressive, how much data that is. And as we have the systems now, there are soldiers, many soldiers out there that are going through and trying to manage all of that data. But as we can see, there's ways to make that more efficient using machine learning. And as we develop those systems, we get to remove soldiers from doing that. We get to make the field safe. We can make it safer for them because we get to pull them out and have them doing other things. So what we're asking for from you all is to help us develop that system to ultimately make us, as my commander used to say, make us more lethal, but really to be a deterrent to make sure we're not necessarily being challenged, but we can keep our soldiers and our warfighters safe. So that's what I really want you guys to focus on, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So our next PEO pitch is going to be armaments and ammunition. And I would love to call up here Kyle Brennan and Jeffrey Wright.
Good morning. Okay, there we go. Good morning. My name is Kyle Brennan. I am the Deputy Research and Development Program Manager for Joint Program Executive Office, Armaments and Ammunition. I work within the Directorate of Integration under the Research and Development Program Manager as well as the Chief Technology Officer. I'm also one of the co-SIBR coordinators for JPEO A&A. I'm joined here today by Jeff Wright. He is from the DevCom Aviation and Missile Center, and he's here on behalf of the Product Director Demilitarization, which is under JPEO A&A Project Manager Close Combat Systems. So JPEO A&A is an Army organization under the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology, as we've heard before in some of the previous presentations. We are fully engaged to develop, deliver, and ensure combat overmatch while serving as the single manager for conventional ammunition. Our mission is to develop, procure, and field lethal armaments and ammunition to warfighters in the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, and Special Forces, as well as our allied partners. So this is just an overview of kind of how it comes from the Department of the Army all the way down to our project manager offices. We are led by Major General John Rime, who oversees 4 project offices in addition to the Director of Integration. I'm going to go through kind of what the focus areas for each of the project managers are. So we have Project Manager Combat Ammunition Systems, which focuses on indirect fire munitions, as well as mortar, munition, and weapon systems. We also have Project Manager Maneuver Ammunition Systems, which focuses on all direct fire munitions, and that includes our counter-UAS space. We have Project Lead Joint Services, which focuses on the ammunition industrial base, as well as Project Manager Close Combat Systems, which is the focus of our presentation today. And then lastly, the Directorate of Integration, and our mission is to integrate across portfolios, kind of look across the project managers, and understand ways to integrate different products into each of them. So the focus of today's presentation and our tech challenge falls within Project Manager Close Combat Systems, which is led by Colonel Vincent Morris. They further the JPEO A&A mission by working to provide dominant and innovative lethal and protective capabilities for the joint warfighter. I have a banner here. So Project Manager Close Combat Systems supports the spectrum of conflict from lethal to intermediate force and end-of-life cycle demilitarization for all Department of Defense conventional munition, which will lead us into the tech challenge that Jeff is going to talk to you about. Within PMCCS, there are 5 product directorates. So it covers combat arms and protection systems, demolitions and countermeasures, demilitarization, and then we also have product lead joint armaments and weapons systems, as well as product manager for terrain shaping obstacles. As you can see on the slide, I'm not going to go through all of them, but we have here the mission areas of PMCCS. And again, to kind of lead into Jeff's portion here, one of the main mission areas is conventional munition demilitarization. So with that, thank you, and I'm going to pass it off to Jeff to talk more about our demand signal.
All right, thank you, everyone. Great to be here today. Thank you for everyone that's put this together. We're going to talk a little bit about something that you don't hear very much about, and that's a good thing. That's the way we like it. We're going to talk about DMIL. All of the stuff you hear up front, designing, fielding equipment, fielding energetic systems, energetic munitions, when they no longer are needed or they reach the end of their shelf life, we have to take care of those. And no longer can you, just dig a hole and bury all that stuff. You have to get rid of it in a very responsible way, in an environmentally responsible way. Underneath JPEO A&A is where conventional DMIL falls. And then under that falls missile DMIL. And that's actually who I'm here to represent today for our challenge, is dealing with missile and rocket DMIL. But our organization covers quite a bit of industry partners and other government agency partners in dealing with anything that has energetics in it, getting rid of it in a safe and environmental way. PD DMIL, as I mentioned, we have responsible not just for the Army systems, but for all of the Navy and Air Force systems. It's our role and our job to get rid of those items. In recent years, we've had a lot of environmental restrictions related to how we get rid of all these components. The more environmental restrictions that we have, the less we're able to do it in an open burning or open detonation standpoint. I know you've all seen and heard about burn pits and open pits and things like that. We're moving way, way away from that, and we're going much, much more in the area of closed disposal. In terms of closed disposal, we now do almost 70 to 75% of all of our DMIL in those areas. The problem is the last 20 to 25% are the more difficult ones to get rid of. So as we continue to move down that road of closed disposal, it gets more expensive, more difficult to maintain, and the last thing that folks like General Rainey and others want to hear is higher bills coming from getting rid of the stuff that the warfighter doesn't need. We try to do it as effectively and as cheap as possible, and we create more room, more dollars, more everything else to get the warfighter what they really need. And so that's always our goal. As I mentioned, though, when we get into doing things more closed disposal, that makes it a lot harder and a lot more difficult to stay cost effective and maintaining these operations are more difficult as well. So specifically, at Letterkenny Munitions Center, which is located in Pennsylvania, we have a capability that gets rid of rocket motors that contain ammonium perchlorate as the main oxidizer. We were great at producing ammonium perchlorate-based rocket motors. It is a great chemical. It's a very stable chemical, lasts forever, and does a fantastic job of sending our munitions and our warheads to do the capabilities that are required downrange. The problem with that is it is not a nice chemical when you're burning it and getting rid of it. Produces lots of acid, lots of solid particulates, lots of very difficult things to deal with. We developed and installed a capability at Letterkenny. Think of it as taking rocket motors, put it inside a chamber, burning those rocket motors inside, and then collecting all of the pollution, combustion products, solid particulates, and the liquid effluents that come off of that, neutralizing all of that, and then having to get rid of all of those materials. Pretty difficult when you look at, we built this capability to address 28 different rocket motors of all kinds of different various sizes. As I mentioned previously, the way to do that was just put it in the open, light it off, and let it burn. Not the case anymore. We have to do that from a closed disposal perspective. So at Letterkenny, the capability has been operating for a while and runs pretty good, but we do have challenges, specifically in getting rid of the waste products and the waste materials. So every time a rocket motor burns, in very general terms, you're going to get about 30% solid particulates, you're going to get about 30% acid, and then 30% everything else. It's that acid and that solid particulate that poses a lot of challenges for us. So what we're really trying to get at is something, a pretty defined and pretty practical solution. So our topic's a little bit different, right? Some of this stuff is a little more broad. Ours is very specific. But what comes out of this specific topic could be applied, we think, to a lot of other potential wastewater processing capabilities. We're looking at reducing the solid waste piece of that by about 60%. Right now, it's a very manual operation. Filter presses, guys going in there, cleaning those filter presses up, having to manually move and manage this material. And so we want to decrease that requirement by quite a bit. Again, we want to try to be more efficient. The more efficient we are with our operators, the cheaper we are, the more money we free up to do better stuff. Also, what we're looking at is on the liquid side. As we produce these combustion products, we have to neutralize this. This material creates copious amounts of water, brine solution, that then has to be carted off. As you know, transportation costs, disposal costs, all of those things really drive some of our operational costs. And we're looking at trying to reduce all of that for more efficient operations. The good thing about this project is that all of these wastes that we're dealing with are all non-hazardous waste. We are not dealing with any hazardous waste. We're not dealing with any nuclear type material, any of that kind of stuff. It's simply tactical rockets, and it's all non-hazardous waste that we're having to dispose of. So the way we've broken ours out is, we want to do a phase 1 study that would look at our existing ARMD system, assess what's currently there, what would be the options for managing that material better, and then, providing us with, what makes sense for our operations. From that, we would then transition to a phase 2 where we would implement that upgrade for the water processing and the solid particulate processing. Eventually, really what we're looking for is a capability installed on site that works and meets our goals of keeping the operation running quicker, more efficient, and less downtime. So that's all I had. In terms of DMIL itself, from the broader perspective, out of our office, Mr. Oris Risick, he's the chief engineer. His contact information is here. I'm on his behalf today. In general terms, if you want to find out more about DMIL, we are hosting a DMIL symposium coming up at the end of September, tied in with the Future Force Capability Conference. It is a great opportunity to learn everything that's going on in the DMIL world. I've only one technology amongst many that's going on in the DMIL world to address. As you can imagine, there are over 5,000 different unique individual items that we have to deal with, and each of those individual unique items goes from anything from bullets to bombs to conventional to missiles. So quite a wide range of things that we deal with. So with that, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Wright and Mr. Brennan. So I want to make a quick announcement. We are recording the PEO sections, so those will be available online. We've gotten a bunch of questions around, will these slides be made available? They will be, so feel free to take pictures of them, but you will also be able to find them afterwards. Next up, in terms of PEO, we have the PEO for Intelligence, Electronic Warfare, and Sensors. Adam Terrior, I'm going to butcher both these names, apologies, and Major Rosa Nefjovny. Major Rosa. Thank you both.
Afternoon, my name's Adam Terrio. I'm the Science and Technology Lead for PEO IEW&S, so Intelligence, Electronic Warfare, and Sensors. My job, I work for the Chief Engineer of the PEO, and my job is basically to help introduce new technologies into our programs. So whether that comes from SIBRs or comes from outside, or whether it comes from Army labs and government research and development. So I try to help get technologies over the valley of death. I've worked for an Army lab, and I've worked for a PM, so I've been on both sides of that valley, and I've seen the challenges that both sides have, so I enjoy helping to get across it. Let's see. There's my contact info. I'll pause there for just a second. Okay. So our PEO IEW&S mission and vision, fairly generic mission and vision statements, but really what matters is at the bottom there. Our goal is to help the soldiers see first, sense deep, and act smart. And so they have decision dominance over their adversaries. What that means is being able to see them before they see you and know what it is you're seeing and make sense of the information that you have so that you can make the right decisions. So like all the other PEOs, by the way, thank you to the other PEOs for putting up the ASALT org chart so I didn't have to. Y'all know where the PEOs sit now. So we, like all the other PEOs, develop, procure, field, sustain capabilities. In our case, it's sensors, sensor systems, both offensive and defensive cyber operations capabilities, and then data analytics capabilities to help the soldiers, like I said, make sense of all that sensor data. We go across all the domains within the Army, so aviation, ground combat, cyber, space, and more. So yeah, we're a big part of multi-domain operations. We deal with all of these different areas. So all the different PEOs that manage things like aviation or ground combat systems, our sensors and our capabilities nestle within their programs. So we provide those sensing and information capabilities to them. So who we are, again, the PM org chart, or I chart, I should say. I'll start off, PM aircraft survivability equipment. Basically, kind of, again, a lot of these, as was mentioned, are pretty self-descriptive, but you're talking about systems that help protect aviation platforms from the threats that would try to shoot them down. PM electronic warfare and cyber is where we're getting into the electronic warfare, the electromagnetic spectrum dominance capabilities. Sensors aerial intelligence is aerial ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. I know we've got a couple acronyms out here. Call me out if I ever use an acronym that I haven't spelled out for you. But aerial intelligence, so sensors from radars, electro-optic, as well as more on the electronic warfare, signals intelligence, electronic intelligence, those type capabilities. Position navigation and timing is, for most of us, position navigation and timing is GPS. But what do you do when GPS is jammed? What are your other capabilities that you can have to help the soldiers know where they are and maintain timing, not just for things like synchronizing maneuvers, but all of our computer systems run off of GPS timing. So how do you maintain your computers working to the right time scale, not just with other platforms, but within your own platform when you don't have access to that GPS signal? So PMPNT has a lot of capabilities there. Defensive cyber ops is again kind of what it says, but that's protecting our networks from outside intrusion. PM Intel systems and analytics deals with that piece of making sense of the data. So you've got all these sensors across the battlefield, they're all collecting data, but how do you get that all into one place and make sense of it in a way that a soldier can do something with it? They manage the process of processing, exploitation, and dissemination. PED is a big part of what they do. And Project Linchpin, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard about, falls under PMISNA, so Major Rosa is part of Project Linchpin. Of course, we've got Bharat Patel here, the head of Project Linchpin. We'll be talking later, but they represent the Army's artificial intelligence program of record to help guide AI capabilities into the Army in a structured, rigorous way. TENCAP, tactical exploitation of national capabilities is, well, national capabilities are things like those very exquisite, very unique capabilities that typically only reside at the national level in a handful of spots. Pretty much every service has a TENCAP office, and this is the office that helps kind of manage all of those and coordinate across them to provide those capabilities to Army units so that we don't have to necessarily just rely on our sister services for those capabilities. PM Cyber and Space, again, kind of what it says, but whereas PM DCO does defensive cyber ops, Cyber and Space is more of an offensive cyber ops capability. PM Terrestrial Sensors is dealing with all of the sensors on, like I said, ground combat vehicles, so things like the commander sights for the Abrams tank or the Bradley fighting vehicle, and for a lot of other ground systems. They do force protection systems fall under that, so anything that is based on the ground. And then the Integration Directorate, as somebody else mentioned, every PEO now is supposed to have an Integration Directorate that works across not only the PMs internal to the PEO, but also the across PEOs to help integrate and make sure that all of our systems are interoperable with each other. So those are all the PM organizations that we have under PEO IEW&S. So the demand signal really just gets at what is our core function. As I mentioned before, our core function is see further, see first, and act decisively. So make sure that we see the enemy before they see us. So we're always on the lookout for new technologies that are going to help us do that. Things that will, whether it's better sensors that are more sensitive, whether it's electro-optics, radars, RF systems that help us to see further away from where we are, but also software capabilities to include things like AI/ML that are going to help the soldiers make sense of that data faster and do so in a way that enables them to make better decisions sooner. As with a lot of things, we deal with constrained environments. Like I mentioned, we have a PM that does aerial sensors, so small size, weight, and power is obviously a big concern for us. We want to keep things as lightweight and low power as possible so that we can perform things at the tactical edge and on aircraft where those environments are constrained by those. And modular open systems architecture is a key priority for us because, as I said, we are often integrating our capabilities onto somebody else's platform. So it's important that there be a standard and open architecture between our sensor and the platform so that we can make sure that those things work. And it also allows us to then more rapidly adapt our capabilities. As new capabilities come online, as new sensors become available, or what have you, the ability to rapidly swap those out and have them continue to interoperate. It doesn't lock us into one particular vendor. It keeps us agile in that way as well. So that's a big priority for us. And one of the first speaker mentioned lead times, production times. From the time that we get a requirement that we are aware of, that we can then go out and try to get money for, you're typically looking at 3 to 5 years for that by the time it actually gets to the field. So just as a broad brush, top level estimate of if you're reaching out and trying to engage with us and trying to develop a capability that we can field, you're looking that's probably a good rule of thumb for expectations. Manage your expectations. Things can always go faster if there's the right. Somebody mentioned authority. Somebody mentioned leadership. If you have the right leadership behind it, if you have the right money behind it, things can go faster. But as the first gentleman mentioned in talking about the PEOs, we don't have control over that. So we execute what we're told to execute. We will execute as quickly as we can, but again, we're limited by some of those external factors. But that's generally what, at a high level, what our PEO is out there looking for. And I'm going to hand it over next to Major Rosa to talk about Project Linchpin and the Tech Challenge.
Good afternoon. So I'll start with a shameless plug from the xTech team. So all of the topics we're discussing today are actually part of the xTechIgnite competition. It's live. So there's going to be flyers on the table outside. Please grab one on your way out if you're interested in participating. So I just needed to say that before starting. So Project Linchpin, as Adam mentioned, we started off with this idea to become the Army's first program of record to deliver infrastructure and services for the development of AI capabilities. That's where we started. It was out of PM, Intelligence Systems and Analytics. Intelligence Systems and Analytics is the place where capabilities are delivered to make sense of all of the data that you're getting from across all of the sensor modalities that are deployed out of PEO IEW&S. So across all those PMs that you saw up there, right? So 8 program management offices and 1 integration directorate. Very diverse set of capabilities that come out of those, and somehow we have to make sense of all of that data, right? So Intel Systems and Analytics is the place where you usually have the ground stations that can pull that data, the hardware stacks, typically, right, it was hardware. Now we have some cloud-based capabilities, which is great. But it's the place where the data goes for an analyst to make sense of the data and inform a commander's decision, right? So when we're talking about decision advantage, right, that's how you get there. So Project Linchpin really grew out of the need to help make that process faster and to help make that process a lower burden on the analyst, right? So the idea was well received by the PEO leadership. So they said, hey, instead of doing that for PM, Intel Systems and Analytics, we want you to do it for the entire PEO, right? Like build the ecosystem that you can bring vendors onto, right? Reduce that barrier to entry that exists today, right? The things that we talked about being in the bottom of the valley of death, right? Accreditation, right? Like ATOs, right? Things like facilities clearance, all of those different things. Let's do that for the whole PEO, right? And it's critical for us because we build intelligence things, right? And those things typically require higher levels of clearance, right? There's a longer lead time, right, to be able to play within this ecosystem. So the PEO liked the idea. We got moved up to the PEO. We went to brief the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology, right, the Army Acquisition Executive, at the time, Mr. Douglas Bush. He liked the idea, and he said, why don't you do that for the whole Army, right? So build the place where all PEOs who have AI needs can onboard industry partners into so that they can get access to the data, right? So that we can streamline the acquisition process, so that we can reuse some of the capabilities, and we're able to scale that way in a manner that is cost effective. So that's where we are today, right? So in January 16th, the Army Acquisition Executive signed a policy directing all PEOs to go through Project Linchpin for their AI needs. Does that mean Linchpin is going to deliver AI capabilities each and every time? Not necessarily, but we are going to be the starting point, right, for those organizations to come and learn the landscape, understand who's out there doing what, right? We're going to connect them with vendors. We're going to ensure that this ecosystem is managed in a way that we provide access and we reduce barrier to entry for industry. So I'll give you a little bit of this here, right? So that was kind of the whole start. Program initiation, organizational stand-up, governance and process, and DoD and IC partnerships, right? What does that really mean? It means that, so Mr. Bharat Patel there, he's the product lead for Project Linchpin. He had this idea of connecting people from across the different organizations that are trying to do the same thing, right? And just getting them in a room together, building a network, and ensuring that we're sharing information, right? This is how we've gotten to industry partners, right? Over the last 3 years, the Project Linchpin team has met with over 400 companies, right? One-on-one, They've come to us at Aberdeen Proving Ground, or we've gone to them at their locations. We've done it virtually as well. We really don't say no to anyone. If you think you have capability that could support the Army, right, across this new landscape, right, the conflict continuum, right, if you think you have something that can support us, that can give us decision advantage, that can help us have that technical overmatch, which we want to maintain over our adversaries, then reach out to us. If you're in the AI space, we'd love to hear what you have to say, and then tell you about some of the ways that you can actively participate, whether it's through experiments, whether it's through these cyber-type efforts, or simply through being able to collaborate as part of our request for information to industry, or our actual contract announcements that we put out. So that's really that top half. The bottom half are some of the things that we're doing to inform how we move forward, right? So the traditional approach across program management offices has been to come up with this elaborate plan, lots of pages, lots of documentation, lots of milestones, very rigid, and you need to stay within schedule, right? You need to stay within cost. Your performance has to meet these very strict parameters that are put out there before you even truly understand what's in the realm of possible. We want to break that paradigm. We want to do something new. The way to do that is to very quickly bring companies onto the ecosystem, get them access to data, get them working on prototypes, expose those prototypes to soldiers, get feedback, right, so that we can help the industry partners understand how to improve their capabilities, and then connect them through this cyber process and other process, right? We have multiple avenues. But the cyber team has been great in helping us. Oh, 1 minute. I'll move very fast then. All right, because I got to get to the next topic. Bottom line, I have cards. You can get my information. If you have questions, reach out to me. Glad to answer any questions you may have, and happy to really build this collaborative team, a coalition of the willing, right, to ensure that not only that we maintain decision advantage, but that we build strategic capabilities that are going to help not just us as the Army, but really you as industry partners continue to be the best in the world, right, in delivering these type of technologies. Next slide. All right, so our challenge. This is on the xTech website, so I'll go through it very quickly. All of those program management offices that you saw up there deliver sensor capabilities that are pulling in data. That data is raw, it's in different formats. You have imagery, you have logs, you have text. There's tons of different data types across PEO IEW&S. And we're looking for ways to find anomalies in that data, right? We know that as we progress forward, that there are going to be ways for the enemy to spoof, to do things that are going to cause us to not have that decision advantage, right? So we want to make sure we break through that clutter, make sense of all of it, and ensure that we're making the right decisions faster than the enemy does. So if you want any information, go to the xTechIgnite and take a look at the topic there.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'm sorry. Do you want to say one final word? Okay. And so contact info, I will leave it up here if anyone wants to take a quick picture. This is meant to be our coffee break. We are running about 15 minutes late. So we are going to go through the coffee break, and then after the next 3 PEOs, we are going to take a slightly longer coffee break and then maybe end around 5:15 instead of around 5 o'clock. So the next PEO pitch is combat support and combat service support. So I want to welcome up Steve Roberts and Stephen Amode. Thank you so much.
Okay, now that I interrupted your coffee break, thanks for setting me up for that one. I'm the guy. Set me up for that. Thanks. Oh, I'm that guy. Okay. So combat support, combat service support, I thank all my other PEOs for putting up the ASOL org chart. I thought they would, so I didn't bother with it, so that's great. So you see how we're lined up. What I like to say is if it doesn't go boom, a soldier doesn't wear it, it's not network, and it doesn't fly, we probably have it. We're kind of a basket PEO. As you can see, we've got expeditionary energy, that's the power generation, but also shelters, kitchens. Yes, the Army has kitchens And if you go to transportation systems, the general talked about boats earlier. We've got the boats. So we've got, then force projection is our basket PM. You've got everything in there. You can see the org chart there because I'm going to show you one with pictures. And then light tactical vehicles has a Humvee, the JLTV, and some other stuff in there. The ISV, you probably seen in the news from GM Defense. And then transportation systems, and I'm the integration lead for the PEO. Oh, and I probably should mention, Brigadier General White is our PEO. She's been there about 9 months now. So you can see where we're located. We're in Warren, Michigan. We are geographically challenged. We've got product managers in Huntsville. We've got a project and product managers at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. We've got a product manager in Natick, Massachusetts. And then we're spread out even within Michigan between Selfridge Air National Guard Base and Warren, Michigan at the Detroit Arsenal. And then what I don't even have on here is the fact on my integration team, I help lead the Arctic for our PEO. I have a guy sitting at Anchorage, between Anchorage and Fairbanks. He's integrated into the 11th Airborne Division. So you can see we have 1,200 people, 4 states. We fielded over 23,000 pieces of equipment last year. So our PEO, we have about $8 billion, almost $9 billion across 3 years. So we're a very large, very expansive PEO, lots of stuff going on. A lot of ACAT 3, a lot of commercial, modified commercial. So that commercial technology does a really good transition for us. And you can see in there what they talked about earlier, our focus is on supporting that joint force. We are the sustainment PEO, basically. We are partnered with the Contested Logistics CFT. So the predictive logistics is which is going to be one of our focus points. That's one of their focus points. Also watercraft. But we support the joint warfighter and multi-domain operational and contested environments. So like they were talking about, we no longer have the ability to move from post to port overseas and not be harassed the entire way. So now you see all the nice pictures with our different PMs. So I don't get a picture because I don't have a product. I help facilitate that integration across the PMs, the PEOs, and making that linkage with industry and academia into our PEOs. I should have a $ sign because I was told by our DPEO, my one objective is generate revenue. SIBRs, Operational Energy, NDCEE, all those programs, my office helps coordinate for the PEO. So light tactical vehicles, the JLTV, the Humvee, the ISV, and then some trailers to go along with them. Tactical power systems, sustainment systems, so tents, force provider units, kitchens to go in austere environments, all those types of things. And then you have to go from desert to Arctic. So there's a lot of technical things there. Common tactical truck, if you are interested in truck technologies, watch for that RFP coming out. We're wrapping up first phase. They're putting together the RFP for the second phase so that CTT will come out. And it's not constrained to the vendors who won the first awards. Anybody can bid. Heavy tactical vehicles, multi-mission protected vehicle systems, that's the old MRAPs and the medium tactical truck. And then watercraft systems, we have a first new boat in like 40 years in the water now. It's going to go out to PCC-5 and Indo-PACOM as part of the exercises there. I believe it's going. I think we're still working on that one. And then bridging systems, Steve helps support those, and that's going to be our focus area. Engineer and maintenance support equipment, material handling equipment, forklifts, loaders, all those types of things, plus engineering equipment. Throwing the water, being able to challenges there. Fuel in the Arctic environment, those hoses were cracking, so we did a SIBR on getting Arctic fuel hoses. And robotic and autonomous systems and test measurement and diagnostic. So you can see our S&T focus areas, power and energy, fuels and lubes, we're integrating with them. Robotics and autonomous, platform performance, so upgrading those vehicles, carrying more weight, trying to keep that performance up. Bridging, Arctic, water in the Arctic desert, generating water from air, from the environment, however you have to do it, purifying it. Advanced manufacturing, predictive logistics, and then demand reduction. Generating, so I'm not going to use the term, hybridization of tactical vehicles, putting anti-idle, off-board power, so you don't have to tow a generator, or doing a hybrid propulsion system, bringing that power with the vehicle. It's now every wheeled vehicle being a generator, so you're not going to bring one with you. So you don't have to tow the generator, you don't have to maintain the generator, you don't have to fuel the generator, you don't have to transport the generator on the aircraft when you're deploying. So it just builds up for that demand reduction. Or making parts forward, or cutting down on your maintenance. All that falls under demand reduction. So Our demand signal, so our focus on this one would be predictive logistics. Being able to predict, is it going to fail? What's the optimal service life, cutting down on maintenance time? Where is it at? What's the real-time monitoring of it? What's the location of it? What's the condition of it? So we've got one going on right now with fuel. How much fuel is in that tanker? Where's that tanker at? So that commander can see it and go, okay, I don't need that tanker there. I need it over there now, and reroute it in route and know how much fuel is in that tanker. I think I covered all this. So Steve will go next. Where's it? It's the tech guy. Ask him the tech questions.
Cool, thanks. Hi, Steve Ament. I'm with PM Force Projection, specifically PDM bridging, which technically we do gap defeat, but people understand bridging better, so that's what we do. So we're here today to talk about bridging. But since I wasn't sure if you guys all knew what Army did when it came to bridging, I figured I'd throw a slide up here just to kind of show you what we view as bridging. The only one up here that we do the bridging that isn't up here, is water bridging. We do have float bridges, but that's completely beyond the scope of this. They're completely different. So talking about bridges on land, we got 3 different types. We have tactical, support, and line of communication. Tactical is what we're actually going to get to for the actual xTech server portion, so pay attention to that one as I go through it. This is the one that's of very much interest when you're watching movies about military or whatever. These are the exciting ones, right? We don't have a lot of stuff that shoots, so we got cool bridges that at least deploy in a scissor-shaped fashion. So these bridges usually ride on an M1 chassis, and they go with the assault force, and what differentiates them from other bridges that we use is they deploy very fast. When you're on the front line and you're going to attack somebody, and a gap shows up in front of you, and you got to get across it, it's a bottleneck. You want to get across it as fast as you can. So tactical bridges are designed to go down. The HASB up there, Heavy Assault Scissor Bridge, goes down in about 3 to 5 minutes. Get across, pick it up in 3 to 5 minutes, be on your way before they know you're there, hopefully. Actually, the picture on the right there is, those 2 far pictures, they're reversed. So the beige one should be on the top, both of them. Anyway, once the tactical bridges have gone forward to wherever the objective is, the logistics support comes back forward, or starts coming up where you bring your ammo, your food, whatever, water. Then we go to our support bridges. These support bridges are not complicated in place, but they take a lot longer. They're not designed for permanent emplacement, so you may leave them out there for weeks or months at a time. They can be longer, but they take a lot longer to put into place. So they will follow up the tactical bridges. And then once you have an area somewhat secured, although we heard earlier today that there really is no security anymore. There's drones everywhere, there's sensors everywhere, they're going to see our bridges everywhere, probably. But we're kind of stuck with what we have right now, so we're doing the best with what we can. We go to our line of communication bridges, and this is where you guys will recognize it's the most like a commercial bridge out there, right? They're solid structures, they're not built to flex like the other 2 types of bridges. They take a really long time to put in place. You might have to build embankments, you might have to build trusses underneath them, something to hold them up. And it could take weeks to put these in, but they're intended to stay out there for years, perhaps permanently. They're for us to cross, bringing our logistics forward, but they're also for the host nation we're in to use as well. So why is this important to us? Why do we want bridge health monitoring? I'm going to show you, if you look over on the right, how we do it today. This is exciting because over there on the right is our bridge health monitoring that's been around for a while. It's essentially a piece of metal. We've drilled 2 holes in it, and when it cracks through from the left hole to the right hole, the bridge is bad, right? Very high tech is how we do it, though. We have it on some of our bridges, not all of them, and it goes in the middle of the bridge, kind of hangs off to the side. So if you want to look at this sensor to see, call it a sensor, if you want to look at it to see if the bridge is falling apart, well, you kind of got to go to the middle of the bridge, hang off the edge, and look. Not good for a support bridge or a line of communication bridge. Maybe for tactical bridges that you pick up, you can see it before you deploy it. But that's what we got today. It's not exactly accurate. It's pretty rudimentary, but it gives you some indication. So our problem is, basically our commanders don't have an indication other than that of if the bridge is any good or not. So when they're planning a mission and they know that they got a bunch of gaps to cross and they got a bunch of bridges to take with them to go, how long are these bridges going to last when they're out there? They're not sure. So we're looking for some way to have them be able to get some sort of understanding about, hey, these bridges I'm taking with me are good, or that one's not going to be good because I need to have it out there for 3 or 4 weeks, do a bunch of crossings. I better swap it out and bring another one in instead. Bridges have very, very varied use profiles for us. Sometimes we'll use them very frequently. They'll be out there a lot, used over and over again, And then other bridges will sit in APS storage, parked. We heard it this morning somewhere in, is it Okinawa now or something? We'll have them parked all over the world, just sitting there, waiting for us to get to them, to need them. We may pull them out, and they may look bad. They may have lots of dirt and grime on them, and you may look and say, that bridge looks really old. But maybe it's never been used. Maybe it's been used once or twice. We don't know right now. Okay, so resetting bridges is very expensive. We don't like to do that, so if we knew the health of it, we could reset them less. For the importance for this group here is that new bridges, we're coming out with requirements for bridge health monitoring. So this is where the SIBR is leading into, is that we will have requirements coming down the pipe that will have requirements for bridge health monitoring in there. So we're looking for maintenance savings, and beyond that, once we start putting power and sensors and communications on bridges, it becomes a sensor. So then we can do radiological monitoring, chemical monitoring. We can tie into monitoring where our trucks are and what equipment's going across those bridges at any given time. Next slide. So that's what we're looking for: integrated software, sensors, and communication packages that we can apply to a bridge. The bridge of interest is a heavy assault scissor bridge. It's the lowest hanging fruit. It's the one I have in my lab, so it's the easiest to just modify once you guys have hardware. We can put it on there and test it. That's the technical goals we're after. On the right side, some of those are more stretch goals. Obviously, we want it to be compatible with a heavy assault scissor bridge, but it needs to be common with other bridges. If the sensors are removable, great. We can take them off an old HASB when it's used up, put them on a new one. Same with the brain box on it, the power supply on it. And also, if we can put it on other bridges as well, that's great. What do we want it to do? Track crossings, obviously. But what's crossing? M1 Abrams crossing a bridge take a whole lot more health off that bridge than a JLTV. Then getting into those last three, just other things. If we knew who was crossing, that'd be great. We could have all sorts of other good situational awareness aspects to that. Health information has to stay with the bridge at all times. No matter what you do in this design, has to be there, even if we put it in storage for 10 years. Because the guy 10 years from now is not going to know what the health was when we put it in there today. And then what's the health information? We're looking for a go, no-go. For the guy that rolls up on it, we're looking for are we getting close to the end of life, so I know to swap it out and plan for it and sustainment? Hey, call the reset facility, tell them to get the spare parts. That bridge is coming. And in terms of trustable, we need to make sure that if it's been tampered with, it tells us, I may not be valuable, accurate information, don't trust me. And if you are going to emit a signal and you're not going to broadcast locally and you're going to broadcast back to command station, make sure you are not an emitter that someone can see. It's bad enough that the drones are going to be seeing us anyway, but just don't make yourself an easy target. That's what I got. I'll be around all day. If you got questions, we can talk in detail. All you want.
Thank you so much. So 2 more PEO pitches, and then we will take a break, I promise. Next one is PEO Enterprise, and I think it's going to be Amanda Fell. Andy Fell.
Not Amanda today. Good afternoon, everyone. Not used to speaking with a mic like this. I thought I was going to be over here, so we'll just keep this quick. Clicker. Let me get to my slides. Enterprise. You'll find this deck that they're going to distribute out to everyone, so I'm not going to belabor this point. So PEO Enterprise used to be known as PEO EIS, and we changed our name back in October 1st of 2024 to be more aligned to our mission. If you haven't heard, PEO Enterprise has been going through digital transformation for the past couple of years. So to get after digital transformation, our PEO team is comprised of Mr. Bill Hepworth, civilian, and Brigadier General RJ Mikish. So we've got a pretty amazing team up there, and they're really focused on West Coast Agile, getting after speed, simplicity, and excellence so that we can rapidly understand how to deliver to the Army in a purposeful fashion that teams with industry, so we're giving you what you need, but you're getting to us what we need. So for our vision, as you can see, Patrick touched on this a little bit when he was speaking earlier today. We do have a $1.3 billion budget at PEO Enterprise, and we've got 49 projects, 6 domains, many multiple contracts that we're managing across in support of keeping the Army running. The Army doesn't run without PEO Enterprise, from pay to HR to logistics to Army contract writing. We are touching across all of the different PEOs. One of the cool things is Major Rosa actually touched on one of my favorite terms, coalition of the willing. So when we talk about software and we talk about software delivery, which is our lane at PEO Enterprise, we're not just working within our PEO. We're working with all of the PEOs. I used to work over at IEW&S doing the DCO mission. So seeing how all the different software capabilities are used across PEO and the entire Army mission, it's pretty amazing. And then working together with our comrades at PEO C3N for getting after standardizing data and analyzing data so that the commanders can make the quick decisions that they need across the enterprise. So keeping the Army running, you see all of the people that are involved. I'm not going to belabor the slide. It's a pretty one that our amazing StratCom team put together for us. So getting after the PEO digital market mission is going to speak to what everyone talked about this morning. Acquisition takes forever. This is one initiative that is being worked on at PEO Enterprise, and it's meant to take away that 9 to 22 month long process for acquisition. Ideally, with digital market, you should be able to come to a brand new portal or website, engage. Hey, Major Rosa, what do you want to buy today? Oh, you work at IEW&S? And the goal is what our topics are around. Not digital market, but enabling rapid acquisition in support of the Army and getting the Army capabilities rapidly. So how do we do that? If we build a digital market, it's going to need an AI-enabled brain to make it run. You shouldn't have to go read the FAR. I'm going to talk about both of them interchangeably because they both complement each other. So we got one topic, which is SSEB, and the next one is portfolio intake. So imagine you're doing an acquisition. You might have an 80-page document. You've got a source selection board. All these people have to come together. They're sequestered in a room. It's going to be months. They've got to read all these documents. They've got to get everyone the same chance to get after making sure they got the right certifications. With an AI-enabled source selection tool, we hope to take months down to minutes for the acquisition. So it could turn that timeline on its head and get after delivering capability much more rapidly to the forces. Same, bless you. Same with your portfolio management. Having a place that's going to allow us to have that brain, that'll have all of the FAR policies, that'll have all of the different contracts that are available, so that you don't show up to, let's just say, for example, a legacy ITE mark for chess. You've got to go there, you got to read the contracts, you got to know what the catalogs are, you got to read through different FAR regulations. If we have portfolio intake that can understand where the procurement person is coming from, if they have a baseline that they need to adhere to, if they're going to buy a laptop and we know that, hey, you're at C3N, you're going to go on that mission, there's a baseline that applies to you because we're going to be applying AI and RBAC to what we're getting after. So high level, I'm really quick. I'm a bottom line up front kind of person, and there's happy hour coming soon. So if you want to get in touch with us, this is how you do it. Please ask for Patrick. But I don't have anything else unless there are questions, or if you want me to turn it back over to you. Yeah?
Thanks so much. Andy might have gotten us almost back on track. So PEO ground combat systems is up next. I just want to say to everybody in this room, if folks are up here and they're using acronyms or words that don't translate to you, like either go find somebody in uniform or go back to the person who was speaking. A big part of today and the whole concept behind demand signal is how do we actually translate Army speak to what the rest of us speak on the startup side. So I just wanted to take a very brief moment there, write it down, come find us, and we will help. So up next, final PEO pitch, and then a coffee break from Ground Combat Systems, and I will turn it over to Mark Smith. Thanks.
I'm pretty sure they put me last because they knew we were going to be behind. So ground combat systems, the real easy way to explain what we are is any vehicle in the Army that's tracked, tanks, anything like that, ground combat systems. We also do, we have one wheeled vehicle, the Stryker platform, but basically we provide all the ground power for the Army. We're responsible for sustaining it, making it less or more affordable, and then transforming that portfolio or modernizing it. You've seen this already, so I won't belabor it, but basically we work a lot with the next gen combat cross-functional team, as well as all the DevCom centers. GVSC is located in Warren, Michigan, as well as us, and CS and CSS, which went already. So a lot of us are there in Warren. If you have any interest or want to know more, please reach out, talk to us. So these are all our organizations or platforms within the PEO. I am in the one on the top left, CTPI, that stands for Capability Transition Product Integration. We're responsible for trying to look across the whole portfolio and figure out ways to integrate new technology. The one on the right-hand side in the top there is Foreign Military Sales. That's our newest organization, and they're responsible for selling and delivering combat vehicles to our partners. And then across the bottom are our 6 actual PMs that build vehicles and sustain them. The one on the bottom left is the self-propelled howitzer. Next to that's Team MAV. So that's like the AMV, the Bradley, the M88 recovery vehicle, I believe the Abrams tank, Stryker family of vehicles, and then the last 2 there are our newest ones. We have the M10 Booker and the RCV fall under Future Battle Platforms, and then XM30. So we took a little bit of a different approach. We wanted to kind of explain our demand signal or our technology needs. So basically every year we reach out and we try to figure out what do we really need. And we bucket all those things that we need into 6 categories or 6 strategic priorities, and then a 7th catch-all, which is other. And just wanted to show you how then that breaks down further. So one of our strategic priorities is autonomy and AI. And within that strategic priority, we have a tech need. So there's 4 listed or 5 listed here. One of them was situational awareness technologies or vehicle agnostic 360. So we take that and we said, okay, under that, there's a bunch of different demand signals or problem statements. And one of those is improving driving sensors and aided driving. So we kind of look at what's our current state, what's our future state, and how do we get that. And that's kind of how we got to our demand signal or xTech topics that we're going to put out today. We actually have 2 of them. We started out with one, and we kind of decided that it made more sense to break it up. So that's what we did. So the first one is basically ruggedizing sensors to increase driver visibility and vehicle safety. So everyone in a car, you have your backup camera, you have your sensors on your side mirrors, all that stuff. You get into an Army combat vehicle, we don't have any of that stuff. So we're looking for how do we take something that's already out there in industry and basically ruggedize it so it can survive in an Army environment or a battlefield environment. How can we help vehicle movement in degraded visual environments? How can we alert the driver that there's avoidance, obstacles that we need to avoid? So that's kind of the first challenge that we have that's out there. And then that kind of leads into the second, which is more, I'll say, further out looking. And that's artificial intelligence and aided driving for ground combat vehicles. So how can we take machine learning and how can we take capabilities for intelligent decision making for the driver? How can we give him that information so that he can see and react, and it does all that for him with different detections? So we decided that breaking those up would probably be the right way to go, so that's what we're doing here and presenting to all of you. This basically gives our information of how to work with us. Jamie also did want me to mention that there's xTech flyers at the front. So if you have any questions or need more information on xTech, please see Jamie and she'll get you the flyers.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Round of applause. Thanks, Mark. So with that, we will go into a 30-minute coffee break, and please be back at around 3:15. Thank you so much.